no one knew. And that wasn't because I hid it well. It was because nothing about me looked like someone who was falling apart. I showed up on time. I answered messages. I smiled when people spoke to me. I laughed at the right moments. I did everything a functional person is supposed to do. From the outside, my life made sense. Inside, it felt like I was quietly drowning in a place where no one thought to look for water. The strange thing about struggling silently is that you don't realize how invisible you've become until someone assumes you're fine and you don't correct them. People would ask casually, "How are you?" And I'd answer the same way every time. "I'm good," not because it was true, but because it was easy, because it required no explanation. Because it didn't invite questions I didn't have the energy to answer. "I'm good" became my shield. The more I said it, the more people believed it. And the more they believed it, the harder it became to say anything else. There's a kind of loneliness that comes from being surrounded by people who think you don't need help. It's quieter than isolation, heavier than being alone, because at least when you're alone, no one is misunderstanding you. But when people think you're okay, your pain has nowhere to go. I remember the first time I noticed the disconnect. It was a normal day. Nothing dramatic, nothing memorable. The kind of day that disappears as soon as it ends. I was sitting across from someone who knew me well, or at least thought they did. They were talking about stress, about how overwhelmed they felt, about how tired they were of pretending everything was fine. I listened carefully. I nodded. I understood more than they knew. Then they stopped and looked at me. "You're lucky," they said. "You don't seem to struggle like this." They didn't mean it cruelly. They meant it as a compliment. I smiled, and something inside me went very quiet. That was the moment I realized how well I had convinced everyone, including myself, that I was okay. I didn't correct them. I didn't say, "Actually, I feel like I'm barely holding things together." I didn't say, "I wake up tired even after sleeping." I didn't say, "Some days it takes everything in me just to exist normally." I just smiled, because explaining felt heavier than staying silent. Because I didn't want to become a burden, because I didn't want to be seen differently. And because part of me believed that if I kept acting fine, maybe one day I actually would be. But silence doesn't heal pain. It only teaches it how to live quietly. Over time, the struggle became routine. Not easier, just familiar. I learned how to function on autopilot, how to complete tasks while feeling detached from them, how to be present without really being there. My body moved through life, but my mind often lagged behind, watching from a distance. I stopped expecting people to notice. Not because they didn't care, but because I never gave them a reason to look closer. That's the danger of looking strong. People assume strength means stability. They don't ask what it costs. I became very good at minimizing my feelings, telling myself that others had it worse, that what I was feeling wasn't serious enough to mention, that if I could still laugh, still work, still show up, then I must be fine. But struggling isn't always loud. Sometimes it looks like discipline. Sometimes it looks like productivity. Sometimes it looks like someone who never complains. And sometimes it looks like me. There were nights when everything slowed down enough for the truth to surface, when distractions faded, when silence returned, when there was nothing left to perform for. Those were the hardest moments, because that's when I could feel how tired I really was. Not physically, emotionally. Tired of carrying things I never put down. Tired of being the strong one. Tired of answering, "I'm good," when I wasn't sure what good even felt like anymore. I would lie awake and replay conversations in my head, moments where I could have said something, opportunities where honesty was possible, and every time I chose silence. Not because I didn't trust people, but because I didn't trust myself to explain it properly. How do you tell someone you're struggling when you don't have a clear reason? When there's no single event to point to, no dramatic breakdown, no visible failure, just a quiet, persistent heaviness that follows you everywhere. I worried that if I spoke, I wouldn't be taken seriously, or worse, that I would be taken seriously, and then expected to change, expected to fix it, expected to explain myself over and over again. Silence felt safer, so I stayed there until one day something small happened. So small it shouldn't have mattered. I was late replying to a message. Nothing urgent, just a normal delay. But when I finally responded, the reply I received was simple. "You've been quiet. Are you okay?" That was it. No pressure, no assumptions, no advice. Just a question. And for a moment, I didn't know how to answer. Not because I didn't want to lie, but because telling the truth felt unfamiliar. I stared at the screen longer than I should have. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I could say, "I'm good." I always did. But this time, something inside me resisted. Not dramatically, not emotionally, just honestly. So I typed something different. "I'm not sure." That was all. I didn't explain. I didn't confess. I didn't unload everything. I just allowed space for the possibility that I wasn't okay. And surprisingly, that was enough. The reply came quickly. "Thank you for saying that." Nothing else. No fixing, no probing, no pressure, just acknowledgement. And in that moment, I realized something important. People don't need your entire story. Sometimes they just need permission to see you as human. That small exchange didn't solve everything. I didn't suddenly feel better. Life didn't become lighter overnight, but something shifted. I felt less alone inside my own head. I realized that being seen doesn't require explaining every detail. It starts with honesty, even incomplete honesty. Since then, I've been paying attention to how often we mistake silence for strength. How often we praise people for handling things well without asking what they're handling alone. How many people are struggling quietly, not because they want to be invisible, but because they don't know how to be visible without falling apart. I've learned to ask better questions, to pause when someone says they're fine, to notice when I'm good sounds rehearsed. And with myself, I've learned something just as important. Looking okay doesn't mean you are, and struggling doesn't always mean you're failing. Sometimes it means you've been strong for too long without rest. No one knew I was struggling, not because they didn't care, but because I never let them see past the surface. And maybe that's the hardest part of silent struggle. Not that no one helps you, but that no one knows you need it. If this felt like your story, you already know what to do.